Hi everyone, this is Hiba from My Little Journal, and today I'm going to be working in my Passion Planner, setting up the month of November for 2023. So I've been asked a lot about what I'm going to be using for 2024. And yes, I'm going to be using a Passion Planner, and I promise to put together a video very soon sharing with you all the projects, planners, and journals I'll be using in 2024. But for now, we're going to set up my Passion Planner for November. And I'm going to start with my craft sticker paper. I'm going to cover up that column next to my calendar. I'm going to use this stamp set from Everyday Explorers to stamp out my week number. And there's also a little stamp in that stamp set where I can just stamp a little line going across just to fill in that space. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to use that bottom portion to stamp some books. And that space is where I document the books I read for the month. If you've been following me for a while, you know I print out little book covers and add them in that space. It's just a great way for me to remember what I read that month. I'm also going to stamp my open book, and this is where I add the amount of books that I read for the month. It's just a fun way for me to keep up with my reading. So let's start with my weeks. I always start by filling in that little column on the left with my social media, and I use this box stamp to stamp out 3 boxes. One box is for my YouTube, the other is for my Instagram, and then the third is for my Reading with Hiba book club. And I say this all the time, if you're not following my Reading with Hiba book club, I definitely recommend it. It's free and it's on Instagram, and I have it linked in the description box for you. But I do draw out the icons myself, and then I'm gonna grab my gray marker, color in the background of my icons, and then I'm gonna add a drop shadow to each box just so it helps it pop. As a content creator, it's a great space for me to keep up with my numbers, to see my growth. As you guys know, I like to keep up with my reading throughout the month. And that space right underneath the days of the week is a great place for me to stamp out reading. And all I do is if I read that day, I highlight it. And if I didn't, I don't highlight it. So that way I can keep up with my reading throughout the month. And I can see if I read that month or I didn't. It's just an easy way for me to keep up with that. Now, I grabbed some of my Everyday Explorers stamps to stamp out some focus words and words of encouragement. I like to use that space right above my social media icons to add some words of encouragement. It's a great space for that. Also, while I have my stamps out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my weekend stamp. I've been asked about the stamp so much. This is also from Everyday Explorers. They have some really great stamps for planners. I like to separate my work planning from my personal. So I use that gray line that separates the two, and I just add work across. That way I separate my personal from my work planning, and it just makes the process easier for me. Now, I also do keep track of my YouTube videos that are going live throughout the week, and I'm going to use another Everyday Explorers stamp set. This is a stamp set full of icons, and I basically use the little filming stamp in red, and I stamp it on the days that I'm going to be posting a video on YouTube. So that same stamp set is perfect for my currentlies. I like to use that bottom left corner to keep up with what I'm currently reading, watching, and any happy mail that's coming in. So I'm just going to use the icons from that same stamp set. That way I don't have to use multiple stamp sets for this. And anyways, I'm always on repeat. I say this, if something's working, just keep doing it. I don't like to change things up much when it comes to my setup. It just works. So I keep doing it and I love how it turns out. And it really works for me. Each week has a little quote in the corner. I like to use that space to add some color. So I use my little sticker books. These are washi stickers. So you can still read the quote in the background. Now, the darker you go with these sticker books, it's harder to read the quotes, but that doesn't bother me, honestly. I just like using my stickers and adding some color through my stickers. So I'm just gonna add one for each week, and then we can move on to making my weeks look nice and pretty. So for my first week of November, I decided to stamp out November, and I'm going to add some stamping around my November. So what I was thinking was probably grabbing some leaf stamps and stamping them around my title. I just wanted to have fun with this. As you guys know, I used to use this space for mind maps and it was fun and great, but I get bored really quickly. I've been doing it for 2 years with the mind maps. And then I decided that I'm ready for a change and I've been using that space to stamp out either things that make sense to the month, maybe things that maybe a new stamp that I got and I want to try it out. I just am using that space to have fun. And as you can see, I'm really having fun here. I haven't used these stamps in a long time, so it was fun to create something cute in that space and make it very fallish and Thanksgiving-ish, if that makes sense. So I'm just having fun with this. I'm going back and forth between my ink pads and using my different stamps and different inks to make the space pretty. I decided to use my Everyday Explorers mini floral stamp just to stamp them randomly around my title, and that filled in that space. And now we can move on to the second week of November, where I'm going to scrap lift myself. So in October, I used these sweater stamps and I stamped them in a row, and then I added knots right underneath it because it wasn't cold yet and it was really warm. But now it's really cold, so I decided to redo it in November. And then I'm going to stamp something about it being crisp and cold outside right underneath it and call it done. It was so fun to put this together. And actually, when I stamped the little quote right underneath my sweaters, it really completed the page and it came together pretty quickly. So I moved on to my third week, where I'm going to use this little label for either a quote or, I don't know, something fallish in the center, but I wanted to surround the label with some leaves. So I'm just using this really old Kelly Purkey stamp to stamp out the leaves, and I will fill them in with my markers and my ink pads. And once I'm done with that, I'll bring back my little label and add it in the center and just stamp a little something in the center. I love changing up my planner every once in a while. Even if something is working for you, it could at some point put you in a rut because you're doing it the same way all the time. So I definitely recommend to change it up every once in a while and try new things. It really does help kind of bring back your creativity and your love for your planner. So I am done adding my leaves. I can grab my little label. I'm going to use the same stamp set to stamp a little something right in the center. I can't remember now what I stamped, but it looked really cute and I loved it. And I'm going to move on to week 4 of November. Let's move on to week 4, where I decided to use this little stamp set from Ellen Hudson to stamp out a little lady. I love the stamp set because you can create your own hair, add your facial expressions and all that good stuff. So I'm going to stamp her in the corner. And then I'm going to use the other stamp set that I pulled out from Studio Calico with the big speech bubble, and I'm going to stamp that right above her just to kind of look like she's saying something. And I'm going to grab a fall stamp set to fill in that speech bubble and stamp how many decorative pumpkins are too many, asking for a friend, of course. So I thought it would be cute, it's still fallish, and I get to use some of my favorite stamps. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that out, and then I'm going to grab my markers and color them in. Almost done with my 4th week in November, but I did want to add my little bursts to my speech bubble and my little lady. I also want to stamp something for Thanksgiving. So I go back to Thanksgiving Day and I grab one of my Thanksgiving stamp sets, stamp that, and I also stamp a little turkey. I thought it would be cute. Anyways, at this point, I'm done setting up my November, but I remembered that I wanted some space to add my Thankful 30. And as you can see, I lost a little bit of footage, but I was using this stamp to stamp on every single day in the month of November. And this space is going to hold what I'm thankful for that day. So at the end of the day, I can come in here and use that little space to just add a little something. Could be thankful for coffee. So I just thought the size was perfect. It's not going to take too much space. I did have to stamp some of these lower than the others, but I don't care. It's not a big deal just because there was things in the way. And I'm going to use this old Feed Your Craft number stamp to stamp the numbers. I kept the ink colors very neutral because I don't know what kind of stickers I'm going to end up adding to my weeks as they go by. So I kept everything neutral and I really like how it turned out. It was a great space for me to use for my Thankful 30. Now, I did want to mention that when I started stamping, I did a little boo-boo and I stamped it on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd day of December. So to fix that, I decided just to go ahead and stamp some leaves in those days. And that way it doesn't look that bad, if that makes sense. I just tried to fix it by adding some leaves and it actually looked pretty cute. I colored them in as well, added some highlights, and called it done. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. Don't forget, I do have a discount code with the Passion Planner, and it's always linked in the description box for you. I hope to be sharing my new Passion Planner for 2024 very soon with you, so keep an eye out for that video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you guys very soon. Bye!